Welcome. I'd like to invite you to come along with the journey that my wife and I took on our 25th anniversary cruise. The last video was our tour through Venice. What we're going to cover today are the cities of Athens and Ephesus, and I can't wait to show you what we have for you today. Like and subscribe. Let's get going. Now we're going to start in the city of Athens with a view, first of all, of the Parthenon. I'm standing looking up at the Parthenon from the site of the original Olympics stadium, which was built in the late 1800s. And this is a view of that stadium from the Parthenon. Isn't that amazing? But look at that structure.
Dedicated to Philopappos. During the Roman occupation, lived in Athens a Syrian prince, Philopappos. He died and he was buried on the peak of the hill. So today you see the funerary monument of him. Philopappos monument. Below the Acropolis, we did see a Roman theater. Below the Acropolis, from the Roman period, 2nd century AD. This is the famous Herodion.
This is the oldest and the only original one showing the battle between the centaur. That's something else she was explaining.
I don't understand why, civilizations, why do they have to ruin such history?
And so you can watch as I'm panning around, you can actually see some of the stones that have been scattered about, and they're trying to gather them and figure out where they go. So here's a view kind of from the back side of the Parthenon, and just showing you this from the reverse of where we've been. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some of the reconstructions. You notice there's a lot of cranes and things like that at virtually all these historical events. And if you'll notice the marble that's white, the repairs are white, and then the older marble is the yellowish gray sort of thing. So that way you can see as they're trying to rebuild some of these columns and things like that, what an amazing thing is. Now after we went to see the Parthenon, Karen and I went down to the Agora, which is a marketplace, and we just had a delightful little lunch. And so Karen would be embarrassed for me to show her, but we had a great lunch. This is from the ship as we're preparing to leave Athens. There is the hill from which the devastating cannon was shot going over to the Acropolis, which is what caused it to be exploded, because there were munitions stored from the Turks. Isn't that amazing?
That's the Roman bathhouse first. Before people were able to go into the city, they had to wash themselves first. And there's that pan around here.
On construction, right? The Parthenon, the temple was covered with the wood. With the 1500, the member of the parliament were 400. So that structure had to function. In the daytime, they were using as the House of Parliament.
So as we're looking down the marble street, one of the first things we passed was the caduceus, which indicated that there was a hospital up here in the upper area. Also the inscription to the goddess Nike, and that since we live in Oregon, that's important to us. But as we're looking down the hill towards the Celsus Library, these are the homes, and they've really excavated only a few of them, but they're realizing how sophisticated these houses were. They had air conditioning and heat, and you see those covered areas, that's where they're doing further excavation. They've really only uncovered a small part of the city, and in some ways I wish we would have picked an excursion that would have gone to those under those covers, which is where the actual show the unfolding essentially of those homes. I can't wait to go back and look and see some of what they uncovered.
This is only the street of the rich people, for their houses. It is in the street, with an original mosaics. Could you please imagine how they were decorated?
I want to jump right in here because what we're going to show you, we just looked at the homes off to our left. To the right, we're going to see the latrine, and the brothel then would be attached to that. Then the marble street will come down and then make a right turn. Well, at that corner, we're going to see the Celsus Library. There was actually a tunnel from the library over to the brothel that went under that street. So you could go to the library and end up in the brothel. Isn't that crazy? So here's this little treat for you. This is a view of the actual latrines. As you can see, it was a group project. Notice how close the holes are, so you'd be sitting butt cheek to butt cheek. Notice the trench in the front. That was where fresh running water would be, and that would be how you could cleanse your butt. There was some debate about a sponge on a stick that was sometimes used to reach down there and clean, but a bit of debate about that.
Standing in the latrine, looking down the hill. And there is the beautiful library.
If you focus on the columns that you got the wall, those two columns in the middle are slightly larger than the one at the top. And if you focus on the columns that you have the wall, the columns are shorter and narrower than those two at the bottom.
So we're here in the interior of the Celsus Library in Ephesus. It's just a room, interesting. Below the floor of this library, various, I guess, one of the rulers of Celsius or something, that was the compromise to allow him to be buried here, as if his son would build a library. And so that's what he did. This actually is like a tomb.
This amphitheater had a huge stage area, which we call the orchestra. And what you'll notice behind the stage area, there would have been a big wall structure that would have been used to reflect the sound back to the people in the amphitheater. Under the stage here, they had this communication pathway. And as we look, I'm going to pan around this whole thing. This amphitheater held like 25,000 people. This was an absolutely monstrous amphitheater. Now I'm going to show you this little cutaway. I'll show you the steps because I want you to know how people get up. You see how the steps are right there? Someone's walking down the steps there. I'm going to climb up that.
Okay. There's Karen. Down there. Well, I'm still out of breath. I climbed all the way up as far as I'll let us come. There's still a section above where I am I can't get to because of the fence. So imagine Paul being down there preaching to the men and women of Ephesians, of Ephesus. And then over here would have been the sea. You can see the Emperor walkway, which would be out to the canal, which is joined up to the sea. That's all filled in now by the Meander River. Ephesus was abandoned after 1,000 years because of the silt creating that delta. We're standing on the steps of the great amphitheater looking out. I'll show you down that way, which would be the main harbor walkway. But also, like I told you, there is the place where Paul was imprisoned for a while before he was sent to Rome. Way up on the hill, as you can see the relationship from the harbor there and that hill where Paul would have been imprisoned. We are standing below the great amphitheater where Paul preached his sermon to the Ephesians. Huge structure. Thousands and thousands of people. And you can see this walkway here. This main walkway down then to the harbor. Which obviously has since been filled in.
Well, what do you think? Wasn't this incredible? You know, it's interesting when you take a vacation, you have in your mind all these things that you're expecting to see and what you think you're going to be impressed by. Well, when we started, I thought I was going to be much more impressed with Athens than Ephesus. But the reality, Ephesus is what struck my heart and is where I'd like to go back again. And that's where Scripture came alive, the book of Ephesians and some of these other pastoral epistles that Paul may actually have written from that little prison up there rather than either Rome or any other place that they've talked about. It's really kind of fascinating. If you want more information, I'll put a link to one of the resources that I used in doing the research for this. But I hope you're enjoying this journey with us.
I can't wait to show you Istanbul and Mykonos. That'll be the next one. So I'll have a link for that. If you want to make sure and see the one that we did from Venice, I'll put a link to that video as well, so you can follow through with that. I'll be making a playlist of all these videos, but keep riding with us, like and subscribe. I'll look forward to seeing you on the next video. Thanks so much. Bye now.